Morning, folks. It's Christmas Eve, so I've been saving this one here. I thought maybe some folks, getting closer to Christmas, getting a little stressed because, you got 1,000 things to do and don't have enough time to do all of it and can't find all of it. Anyway, this one here, this soap is brought to us from Yulay. And name of this one here is called Elf Balls. Now, in this particular container, typically you'll find that her soap, Monica soap like this, will come in about 4-ounce container or 4 ounces in a container. This one here is a 2-ounce one. And I've had this one a moment, so there's going to be some missing, but that's more or less what it looks like when you first get it. I have to say that the scent on this, which I got listed down below, the two things I probably should point out about this one here is clove and spices. Just to, in other words, some folks may have a reaction to cloves and spices, so you might want to consider that if you're looking at an interesting soap like this one here. And of course, I got the matching aftershave to go right along with it. But anyway, I thought, it'd be a good chuckle, Christmas Eve, and like I say, a number of people are probably starting to get a little stressed with everything going on, because discussions, with the wife, the timing of everything, and yeah, food preparation just for the meal on Christmas Day. It's going to be a wee bit of work. Anyway, blade of choice today chose to go with the Lord Cool. And it comes packaged like this right here. It's only wrapped single wrap. It's not double wrap, but this wrapping is fairly thick. It's a pretty nice wrapper if you're interested in that sort of thing. And the shaver of the day, this is 1956 B1 Gillette flare tip. It's a red tip. If you're unfamiliar with this particular lineup, it is this one here is the most aggressive of the lineup. When these first came out, there was a red tip, and then there's one. I got one right over here. This is my son's favorite one, this one here. And in other words, he's just got, I guess you might say, the medium aggression on this one here, silver tip, if you will. But usually they just refer to it as a super speed flare tip. And then there's one that comes out with this tip being blue, and it's the mildest one of the three. And when these first came out, this one here is definitely for heavy beards. For me, it works well for me because of the heavy growth that I have, and especially in some areas, this shaver does quite well for me. But you'll notice if you look at how many are available for sale, you notice the one I showed you that my son likes to use. That one there seems to be the more popular one of the three. But the more expensive one of the three usually has to this one here. This one here is the one that usually runs you a bit more money. If you're interested in looking at them, sometimes a good place to go is Razor Emporium. We'll have a number of ones for sale, as well as information that you can look up to find out a little bit of history about the Super Speeds, which Gillette did really well, in my opinion, with the Super Speeds, hitting the, I guess you might say, hitting the right spot in the market, especially even price point, varying from some that are maybe a little bit less, not quite as expensive, to more expensive. I've already put a hot towel to the face this morning, and the pre-shave oil that I got worked up this morning. This one here, I decided to go with this one here. This one's from Maggard's. I bought this a while back on like a Black Friday sale, if I remember correctly. This one here is a sweet orange, and at the time, I think I picked these up for like $4.99, $5 a piece, and I've got several of them. Got one that's grapefruit, and I can't remember all of them, but anyway, I picked up whatever was available. I think I picked up one of each, and I've even got one. This one here, what I did, I had been using it off camera, and so the amount was getting a little bit lower. The coloration of this, well, this had the grapefruit pre-shave oil in it, and then I added some Parasso beard oil to it, and this is what it turned out to be looking like. And this one here, in other words, that's just tinkering around with stuff, kind of like making my own soap, or mixing a matching soap and adding this and that. Anyway, that's what I was doing with this one here, and it worked out pretty well. Oddly enough, there's a little bit of separation right there. You might be able to see it, but it stayed fairly well mixed, and it's a little bit of a heavier oil, pre-shave oil that's mixed up here. This one here, not quite as thick. I hate to say thin, but you can kind of tell it moves around pretty easy. Um, so when it comes to pre-shave oils, it really depends on what your wants and needs are. For me, my experience and what works best for me, um, there's a couple of, I guess you might say, spectrums to look at. Coconut oil. Um, Coconut oil works really well for me when I'm shaving with a DE or an injector or something along those lines. But when it comes to shavettes and straight razors, I notice it seems like when I use coconut oil as pre-shave oil, seems to create just a little bit of a drag. And but this pre-shave oil from Taconic, this one here works rather well. As it goes for what I'm talking about in Spectrum, when I got my coconut oil, matter of fact, his name brand Crisco, and it was like $5 for this huge container that would last forever. Uh, this one here run you about $15 if I remember right. So you know the other end of the spectrum. But if you're just shaving with DEs or injectors or something like that, and you're wanting to stay in a smaller budget, coconut oil may be something to check out. It's not terribly expensive, depending on your name brand or what you pick up. And it comes in a solid form and also comes in a liquid. The solid form seems to be a little bit cheaper. I say a little bit. When I was looking at it, it was quite a bit cheaper. It was a big price point difference, like twice as much, or it could be 3 times as much for the liquid. The solid of a coconut oil, once it reaches right around 74 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer, it turns into liquid. So in other words, even if it's a solid in the container, once you like scoop it out and start to put it on your face, it turns to liquid, just that quick. It's pretty quick. So just throwing all that out there. I know that's a lot. But anyway, I've got this whipped up here. Now that I've done all that, it's thickened up a little bit so it's not drippy. But this one here, this is another one of the turtle handles I was talking about from Vulfix. This one here, Super Badger. If I remember right, I can't remember if this is like 23 millimeter or not, maybe. Can't remember for sure. It's not a really big, it's not a huge one, but it blooms up real big. It just mushrooms up just huge. That's what it looks like there on the inside. It is a little bit thicker now that I've done all the chatting. But anyway, go ahead and wet the face and get started here. But yesterday I did take a moment to take the rest of the pre-shave cube from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements, the Holiday Cube, and a little bit of Wilkinson Sword soap that was in a tub, in a blue tub I should say, and also added the sample from Soap Commander. Took a cheese grater, grated it all up, warmed it up ever so slightly and carefully in a microwave. You want to be kind of careful about how you warm something up in a microwave and don't let it go too far. You kind of run the risk of it having a negative effect on your soap, and just enough to turn it liquid, in other words. And I whipped it up real quick, put it back in the Wilkinson Sword bowl, if you will, and it has that green tint to it from the pre-shave cube, but it looks pretty decent. I think in the next shave, typically what I do is after whipping these together like this, I usually wait a couple of weeks to let it set up. But I don't think this one here is going to need that, because I didn't add any coconut oil or anything quite like that. So I think it's probably going to be all right. I think in the next video next 1 or 2 videos, I might go ahead and use it. I think actually what I've got set up with the next video, which I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get one in on Christmas or not, because it is going to be extremely busy early. I might be able to get one in, but my next shave I know I got set up. If it's not going to be on Christmas Day, it'll be the day after Christmas. Guess you might say it's that, talking about going from one end of the spectrum to the other, Obsidian from Sterling Soaps. That scent, it's very bold. It won't be for everybody. If you're unfamiliar with Obsidian or black ice, it's black licorice. And Black ice is the little brother of obsidian because it is very strong, very just, I mean, you open container, it just rolls right on out. My nose picks it up without a problem. It won't be for everyone, but it works well for my nose. And if you like black licorice, um, Sterling's beard oil doubles as a pre-shave oil, and they have a licorice. It's just something to throw out there for the folks that are, I guess you might say, travel on the other side of the world. Licorice is not everybody's favorite scent by any means. For me, it just works well for my nose, and it brings back those days where, at least it seemed like, and maybe it's true, I don't know, when I was a kid, you know, black licorice was readily available, and the red licorice was what seemed to be new to me. I don't know if it had already been out for a while, or was it the red licorice new when I was a kid. It was new to me. It was a treat back then to get the licorice because it was such a unique scent, not only for the nose but the taste also. Good and Plenty was another candy. I think it was Dippin' Dots was another one. I can't remember for sure. All the fun I had when I was a kid going to the store with a little bit of pocket change to pick up a little bit of candy. The little store down the street from me back, used to live in the southwestern part of Oklahoma. I'd ride my bicycle down to this, was literally considered a 5 and dime store. If I remember right, it was right on the sign. It had that on there. And the name of the store is called Whackers. Excuse me. I'd ride my bicycle down there, and I'd go down. That's where I would pick up the candy, as well as back then I was collecting baseball and football cards. When I first started collecting those, it was 20 cents a pack. And I remember they talking about a painful lesson. And when prices go up, the pack went from 20 cents to 25 cents. So that means that for every dollar that I was spending down there, I got one less pack, and plus I still had to come up with taxes. I was not a happy camper the day I learned that one. Tough lessons to learn about taxes when you're a youngin'. Yes, I used to have a shoebox full of old baseball, football cards. I guess you might say for me, football, probably one of the most notable cards that I had would be Johnny Unitas. Yes, and like a ding dong, I got rid of all my cards when I was young. Yeah, I wish I kept them. May actually got a little bit of money out of them. But pretty cool educational pieces, you know, how the cards were presented back then. There's a whole number of baseball cards that I had that were what I would consider notable. Back in those days, one of the things they do with baseball cards is during the playoffs and the World Series, they would have special, like a little events that took place during the game. Somebody, in other words, this would be like the most RBIs, you know, and a picture of the guy, you know, actually, you know, during the play, instead of just a photo of his face. I thought was pretty cool. Just little things like that. A lot of fun back in those days. No internet, and our TV back then, we had no cable. Just had the rabbit ears. So even picking up PBS was even a struggle. Not that I was interested in watching it when I was a kid, but in other words, 3 channels is pretty much what you got at most. PBS on occasion. So there wasn't a whole lot to be watching when I was a kid, so you found other things to do. For me, is on my bicycle riding around town. guess you might say learning the sights. Lived in a mobile home park with a gravel road, with a big field in behind us. Outside of tornadoes, probably the most eventful thing that happened in the weather-wise, living in a mobile home was southwestern part of Oklahoma, Altus. We got a lot of rain one time. I mean, a lot of rain. And the field in behind us has always been just a field. Well, it turned into basically a pond. Wasn't deep, you know, just a little bit of water, but it lasted for quite a while. So there were toads galore. I mean, the croaking and carrying on at night. It was pretty wild. There was in the mobile home park, one of the kids had a one of those little hard plastic swimming pools filled up with water, and of course, you know, over the course of all the rain and everything that took place, there's hordes of tadpoles in that swimming pool. I mean, just a horde of them. You know, learning experience when I was a kid. Didn't see much in the way of snakes. An occasional tarantula. Back then in that open field, you know, if you watch some of the shows with kids in them, like The Sandlot and stuff like that, kind of remind me of back then we had that field behind us, and we'd ride our bicycles back there in that field, and there would be a mound of dirt we called the dirt hill, and we'd ride our bicycle up the side of it, down the side, and see how fast we can go, and see if we can jump off the top, and all that sort of thing. Just all kinds of silliness, you know, when we were kids. Didn't have a whole lot, so that's what you used to entertain yourself with. And thinking back, you know, how big we thought that dirt hill was, and it wasn't really that big, but it was big to us. Just a place to go back there and play and have fun. But have a little beaten path, you know, working around in the field. And a little bit further down the road from us, there was a group of older kids that built what we referred to as a fort. It's just more or less a lean-to out of bits and pieces of wood that was laying around. We thought it was all pretty cool because it was right into the side of a hill, so it was pretty easy to work up the lean-to, if you will. Not exactly safe. In other words, it wouldn't take a whole lot to blow it over, knock it over. But as kids, you know, yeah, we didn't care. Never even entered our mind. Witch hazel, unscented, Humphreys. This is a huge container. I know I keep on saying it, but it is. Most containers are not that big. That's a lot of witch hazel. Very smooth shave this morning. This blade and this shaver is a very nice pairing up for me. I mean, it is just about the equivalent of, you know, the words pick your smooth shaving razor, whether it's a Henson, Fine Marvel, whatever the shaver happens to be, your favorite smooth shaver, Rockwell, 6C. I mean, this is a great pairing up, boy. Just a very nice, smooth, comfortable shave for me. I know this blade doesn't get a lot of play. But for me, I discovered it a while back. You know, just bought a pack or two and tried it out, and it works really well for me. It's at one point in time, somebody had mentioned they thought they were going to discontinue. If they were, or if they did, there's so much of the old stock out there that is still readily available. Razor Blade Clubs is a good place to go to find 100 pack of these, or just try a pack if you want to. They are Teflon coated, and I think that's what does the trick for that particular blade. Sharpness works well for me, especially in a shaver like this. Man, just a fantastic shave this morning. In case this is one of your first videos watching, Monica's aftershave is not, it doesn't have alcohol in it, but it is witch hazel based, and it does have a tendency to separate. Shook it up right before the start of the video, so you do want to give this a good shake before you give it a try. And mentioned before, the cap is just, I guess you might say, standard. and that's what the restrictor looks like. This plastic container does hold up pretty well to, I guess you might say, a beating without leaking, and that is something to consider. I know the plastic ones aren't necessarily the most desirable, but if you got butterfingers dropping things a lot, or if you want to take it on a travel and don't want to use glass, this one here just might be an option for you. Now she's says she's got this part of the her website closed because due to a move, and it's been like that for a moment. So who knows when she's going to be back up and running to check it out. But she's got at least, I think, 250 different scents, probably more. A lot for anybody to pick out their favorite scent. Smells just really nice. Very much in the Christmas theme in the way of the scent. But like I say, it does have clove and it's got some spices to it. And for some folks that might irritate their skin or their nose. For my nose, it works out great. I had a great time this morning. Hope everybody's enjoying their Christmas Eve. Stay healthy, stay safe, and smooth shaves to you.